Welcome back. When we left off in the part 4A of the Finalizing and Reporting Invoices tutorial, we learned about the bottom of the invoice screen and all the ways a sales order can be processed. Now, let's see how to finalize them. First, we'll take a look at the tender setup screen. There are a number of fields that affect how the tender screen works. Let me point out a couple of them. First of all, each tender type lets you decide whether or not you accept it. Do you accept checks? How about American Express cards? Check each that you do accept. Any not checked will not display on the tender screen. Do you allow cash back? And how much? And how about this one? If checked, just click the cash icon and the amount due auto-fills in without having to type it. I'll show you that in a minute. And if you accept manufacturer coupons or give out store coupons, they're set up here. Enter the custom name and whether or not a barcode is required and the maximum coupon amount. And depending on whether or not you're using electronic funds transfer for credit cards, a setup lets you select each credit card type at tender or just show a single credit card icon so you don't have to choose which icon to click. The system still tracks each transaction by credit card type. Okay, back to invoicing. When the invoice or slip button is clicked for main accounts with payment terms, the system opens a prompt to see whether they want to pay now or to put the invoice on account. If on account, the prompt closes, the customer's AR is updated with the invoice, and the cursor returns to the customer lookup field to start the next invoice. If Pay Now is selected, the tender screen opens to cash out the invoice. And when the invoice or slip button is clicked for cash customers, the tender screen opens. If the Ask Customer ID on Tender setup on the invoice option screen is enabled, the system prompts to identify the customer before opening the tender screen for default cash customers and first opens the Find Customer window to locate the customer. A Customer Decline button can be clicked if the customer does not want to give their name or phone number. If the setup is disabled, then the tender screen will open whether or not the customer is identified. There's two tender screens, one for ROAs and the other for invoices. Both look and behave the same way, so we'll concentrate on the invoice tender screen for this lesson. When the tender screen opens, each form of payment checked as accepted on the tender setup screen displays. If coupons are accepted, the name you gave the coupon on the tender setup screen will display, and if not named, the icons will be identified as Coupon 1 and Coupon 2. Okay, enter the amount being paid and click the form of payment. If the tender setup is set to autofill the amount, then just click the cash icon if the customer gives the exact amount. If the amount entered is greater than the amount due and the cash button is clicked, the system will prompt with the change. If the amount entered is greater than the over tender amount, as set up on the tender setup screen for any of the other icons, the system will change the entered amount to 0. If under the over tender amount, then the tender process will continue. If split tender is made so that the amount entered is less than the amount due, the system will display the balance due and wait for the balance to be entered. Any number of forms of payment can be used to satisfy the invoiced amount. The system will prompt with the amount being paid when a payment icon is clicked, and when the balance is satisfied, will prompt that the process is complete. Answer OK, and the invoice will print. Click the Cancel button to cancel a payment amount if one has been made, or to cancel the tender process if a payment amount hasn't been paid, or click the Close button to cancel the tender process with or without a payment having been made. Either way, the merchandise on the ticket is no longer reserved, and the items stay on the sales order ready for more transactions, finalizing, or deleting the ticket. Oh, and coupons are considered tender and are applied after taxes. At the time of tender, enter the coupon amount in the Enter Tender Amount field and click the appropriate coupon button, or click the coupon button and enter the tender amount. If the barcode required field is checked on the tender screen, scan or enter the barcode and click Tender, or click the coupon button and manually enter coupon information. And just so you know, a percentage off coupon isn't handled as a coupon, but rather as a discount. So you could click the Edit button on the invoicing screen to enter the discount when you sell the part. And if a deposit is taken on a ticket, the invoice prints and can be reopened under the Reference button, and when tendered, the deposit amount is deducted from the amount due. If the sales order prints as an invoice number is assigned, and the transaction is tracked for accounts receivable posting and reporting for charge accounts, and cash drawer tracking and reporting for cash customers. The min and max and next invoice numbers are stored on the invoice option screen and can be reset before going live. And if you're multi-store, each store should be numbered. Click the Next Invoice button to change the values. And forms are a whole nother issue, and setup is handled on the invoice options screen. But check out the forms help and video for details. Tendering an invoice with a credit balance works the same as a sales invoice. Enter the amount to be returned in the Enter Tender Amount field and click the tender form icon. You don't need to enter the minus. When the full return amount is satisfied, the system will prompt the same way it does for a sale. And when OK is clicked on the final prompt, the credit invoice will print. Okay, if permissions allow, an invoice can be backed out of the day's sales using the undo feature. Okay, with a finalized invoice in focus, open from invoice image, click the undo button. It'll ask you if you're sure. It'll create an undo reference number, and then it'll force you to print in order to complete it. 2 invoices will be available, the original and the undone invoice. And if the undo button is not available and you don't know why, enter undo under the search tab from the F1 help screen to get a printable list of all the reasons an invoice can't be undone. Okay, Edit Tender is used to change the form of payment on a finalized invoice and is mostly used for COD. So, let's say you finalized a ticket as cash, and when the parts were delivered, the customer gave you a check. Click the Edit Tender button and re-enter the amount for the correct form of payment. Tender processes the transaction, and the invoice journal report shows both the original and the edited invoice. And that's it for tender. Now, as part of the point of sale reporting, we have a couple more buttons, and we've hit the whole invoice screen. The Lisa report is a line item sales analysis, and the part ledger reports every change that occurs in the stock quantity of a part. Open either with a customer and a part in focus, and the report opens with the data displayed, and closing the screen returns to point of sale. And we've opened Invoice Image to find finalized invoices. Since invoicing is still available in Mode 2, you can see Mode 2 invoices only. If there are any Mode 2 invoices, didn't I mention Mode 2? It's a whole nother subject. But just so you know, it's a process that lets you continue limited invoicing online when the database resources are interrupted. And invoicing is the only thing you can do in Mode 2. Then when back online, the invoices are uploaded to be part of the day. And besides the close button, I think that's about it. So now, all we have to talk about are the end of day reporting options. I'm not going into depth with these reports. I just want to show you where to get your point of sale reporting. So let's start with the invoice journal. The invoice journal reports every sale and return invoice total and is broken down by cash, charge, COD, undo, and edit tender invoices and reports in detail or totals only. And the counterman totals is run from the invoice journal and reports sales by counterperson. And charge sales and credit invoices are updated to the post-entry screen and reported from the AR transactions report. And I'm not going to talk about cash drawers here, only in that the cash invoice totals from sales and returns at point of sale and paid in and paid out transactions are updated to the cash drawers, where it remains until the drawers are closed, and then they become part of the end of day. The cash transaction report outputs all cash sales and returns from the drawers. And there are a number of sales reports under the Financial Reports menu. The line sales, and the sales analysis, to name just a couple. So check out each one in the F1 Help file if you need help running any of these reports. Well, that's about it with this series on invoice training. We're going to end here. However, there are a number of videos that go into more detail with some of the features we've touched on. And then if you have questions and don't find the answers in the F1 Help file, please contact your support representative. And thanks for joining us.